What's up, everybody? Stephen Bogren here, Pro Physique. And the topic I wanted to talk about today was how fast you can expect to gain muscle as a natural athlete. So you'll notice that I'm definitely out of my normal element right now. I'm actually at my grandparents' house down in the Sarasota area, and just sort of trying to get some of the things taken care of around the house. But that leads me into this topic from today because it's been something that's come up lately that I've been having to deal with. Is what is a realistic expectation for me as a natural athlete about how much muscle I can put on in a given time frame. Now, the biggest thing that you're going to have to take into account is training age. So, for a newer lifter, if you have never ever lifted before in your life, if you've never done a squat, you've never done a deadlift, you've never done a bench press, the first initial phase of your training, you're not putting on muscle. You will get stronger. What we refer to this is called neuromuscular adaptation. So to take a very complex idea and trying to break it down into something more simple, essentially your body is becoming more efficient at how it recruits the actual muscle fibers, whether it's type 1, type 2, and then how it's recruiting those, learning movement patterns and becoming better at doing that, becoming more efficient. If you've ever tried to go to pick something up that's very, very light and just like not realize how light it was, or it's something in the box that looked big and you thought it was going to be heavy, and you go, and then all of a sudden it moves really quick. That's kind of the thought process behind that. So your body, as soon as your body realizes that it's not heavy, the entire movement, the feeling of it changes. And so that's what your body does with weight training as well. So if you've never lifted before, the first 4 to 8 weeks roughly are going to be mostly neuromuscular training. And you will continue to do neuromuscular training throughout your entire lifting career, as long as you're still trying to get better at lifts, improve on mental cues, physiological cues, things of the sort. It's actually very important to continue to focus on these things and build on that because it means it's going to make you a better, safer, more efficient lifter. These are all things that we want to do. Whenever you're looking at weight training, injury prevention should be your number one goal, and this is a big part of how you do that. Okay, so say I'm past that 8 weeks. Now, there are some studies that have shown that as a natural lifter, you can gain upwards of 20 pounds. So 20 pounds is kind of the high end, right? That's probably a pretty, maybe not the most realistic goal, but it's out there. So if 20's my high end for my first year, right? A lot of people like to call that the new gains, right? So it's like when you first get into lifting, that is going to be the easiest it's ever been to get stronger, bigger, better. But the truth of the matter is depending on how your nutrition is, your training set up, and the factors as a whole, that's going to have a lot of variance. So if 20 pounds is perfect, right, say that's the most we've seen. The least we've seen is obviously 0. So that means that your training, your nutrition just overall was so poor that whatever you were doing in the gym was just off the reservation. So things that you want to look at when you're talking about training and how you're managing things. Frequency. How often do you go to the gym? How many days a week? If you never go, 1 to 2 days a week is probably a great place to start. Time. How much time do you spend at the gym? Does your workout take you an hour? Does it take you 2 hours? Does it take you 30 minutes? Right? So the less training experience you have, the smaller these variables can be. Type simply refers to what kind of training you're doing. If you're trying to swim or become a better swimmer, you don't want to be out running, right? So resistance training, weight training, aerobic training, right? So You actually might become a better swimmer by running if you're increasing your VO2 max, if you're increasing your aerobic capacities. However, you would be much better off by actually swimming. Specific, right? Specific adaptations to impose demands. That's the SAID principle. Right? So we have frequency, time, type. What we're missing now is intensity. So SAID principle: frequency, intensity, time, type. So when we talk about intensity, intensity of exercise is something we refer to as percentage of VO2 max or percentage of 1RM. So when we say that something is intense, when we talk about intense exercise, that means it is a higher percentage of our VO2 max or of our one repetition maximum, the most weight that we can lift for one time on a given lift. So my 1RM for my squat is very different than my 1RM on my deadlift. But depending how you manage these factors is going to help depend how fast you progress and how much you're able to progress. Now, after that first year, second year, still pretty good. You're still going to get a pretty decent amount of gains. You're still going to put on some good lean quality muscle mass. But how about somebody that's been training for 5 years, for 10 years, and who's been consistent? So obviously when we're talking about putting on muscle, consistency is number one. If we have a program that we don't stick to, well, if we're not accountable to it, our volume isn't progressing properly, we're not working at higher intensities to increase strength, we're not working at lower intensities to increase work capacity and to increase volume. So it's really, really easy to sort of go in and do stuff, but if you're not really tracking and paying attention to the variables, not be doing the right kind of things to progress as soon as that plateau hits and things start getting difficult. When you hit that plateau, that fit principle, those things like volume and intensity, overreaching, these are all very important things to incorporate into your lifting regimen or your workout routines. They're going to help you to progress past the plateau and continue to get stronger and better. Volume is something that's very simple. It is sets times weight times reps. Okay? So if I did 100-pound squat for sets of 5 and I did 5 sets of those, right? So 100 times 5, 500 times 5 for 5 sets, 2,500 pounds. I have 2,500 pounds of volume for that workout. So over time, I need to be doing more than 2,500 pounds of squat volume per. If I only squatted once a week, then once a week. Again, you're gonna have diminishing returns every single time. And as you get to a higher training age, you're lucky to get a pound or two of muscle a year. And that's just kind of how it comes down to. So, granted, if your programming has been poor in the past and you've gotten to the point where now you have somebody else doing your programming, it is objective, it's well done, it's paying attention to all the variables that you need to be paying attention to. Maybe you'll get a little bit more because maybe you got a little bit less. We all have a genetic potential, right? And so you're only going to get so big genetically. Some people bigger than others, but how we're built, how our DNA is structured, how your ancestors survived versus how my ancestors survived, very different. And what a lot of people tend to forget is we are creatures of adaptation. Building muscle is an adaptation. So if you want to continue to adapt, you have to understand that there's a lot that has gotten us simply to the point that where we are, that has allowed us to survive, that we have to take into account to have realistic expectations. The main point to this video is that I am not going to start working out and in a year be the next Phil Heath. Okay? I am not going to start working out and in the next year be the next Emily Hayden, the next Jen Selter, right? These people have been doing it for a very long time. This is a lifestyle for them. It's what they live. They have invested themselves into it on top of already having good genetics. All right? Setting realistic goals for yourself is imperative if you want to really fall in love with the process. Falling in love with the process is super important with just being happy and making it a lifestyle. Being happy and healthy for an extended period of time. So please, do your research, look into it, understand that you're going to get diminishing returns, but it's worth it. It's fun. It's great. It's healthy. Anyways, guys, I hope this was a good video. I hope you have a great week. Stephen Bogran from Pro Physique here.